Mayor will join if he so we're going to call to order at 11:09 a.m. and we'll do a quick roll call. We have from the city, Laura Pettit, myself, Tourism and Communications Director. We have Interim City Administrator, Tony Piasecki.
Here.
Wonderful. City Clerk, Josh Stecker.
Here.
Diane Bertram. She's on mute. She's here. We've got Sue Brayton.
Here.
Janae Matan.
Here.
James Kara and his collarbone.
Here. Barely.
Jenny Wellman.
Here.
And Mary Damaris.
Here.
Wonderful. I know we have, Sue, you may not be able to join us the full time. I have not gotten excused absences from either Warren Zimmerman or John Moist. And I think that's everyone we're missing, yes?
Stephanie Lyle.
Stephanie, thank you so
I
much.
feel like, didn't John say he couldn't make it in an email? I thought I saw that in the thread that he would not.
I think that was a past meeting. I don't think it was this one.
And I think Warren said this time was best for him, right?
Yep, he did.
Yeah, I thought John said, but I could be wrong.
Yep, I'm not sure, but I haven't heard that he couldn't make it. So we will proceed on. So first item of business, we have a review and approval of our August minutes. Any commentary, anything, any reaction on those?
So I wasn't in attendance, but in reviewing them, I noticed in the motion to adjourn that the mayor seconded the motion, but he's called the order, but he's not listed as present. Is he usually put in the list of those present? Oh, you're muted.
Thank you for noticing. I can send that out.
And then it had the next regular meeting, October 14th instead.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just gonna say, but not a big deal, but.
At that point, it was September 7th. And then I'll send that out to you again for approval with those details approved. I will send out right now. There we go. All right. And that is sent out to all again for approval. All right, so that's done. Josh, can we have a motion to approve that with the new version sent out?
Yeah, they can approve it.
Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the minutes, the revised minutes.
I'll second.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Janae. Moving on to the heart of what we're here to discuss today, and I wish Stephanie was with us. We took a look in depth, and I'm going to share my screen for this, at what other destinations throughout Washington are doing for their LCRAT Tech grant amounts. I know specifically Bainbridge Island was brought up as an example as to the amount that they give out to their recipients. They list who got funds from their total. They do operate under a grant cap. They do have slightly more than us, but they do have more hotels and vacation rentals throughout the island. So they have a propensity to make a bit more on their LTAC. To note though, nonprofits received between $5,000 and $15,000 as an award. The majority of those funds went to DMO costs under Visit Kitsap, Visit Bainbridge, and the Chamber of Commerce for their visitor center operation. So to note, that's something of interest. I'm going to go ahead and bring this up and we can talk through a couple of these examples. So the city of Everett, much larger than us, has a good amount of chain hotels that bring in meetings business. Anything from Intercontinental, I believe, operates a few hotels, to Holiday Inns, things of that nature. They offered 2 rounds of funding, similar to the way we did last year, for a total of $200,000. They also have, and that was different for 2021, that was an increased amount. Public and nonprofit agencies are encouraged to submit applications, so that's very in line with our structure. There is no for-profit business allowed to apply under Everett. I thought this was interesting. So the funds are awarded on a competitive basis to first round applicants. They are also eligible for that second round if they don't make funding in the first. I found that very interesting. There are also a list of criteria that I found on other cities' pages as well, and that includes the city of Moses Lake. And I think establishing a criteria for voting is important. We have several items that we consider, but perhaps solidifying them in a list would be a good opportunity for our applicants to also have a very clear idea of what we're looking for and what they can present to. What I found interesting in the city of Moses Lake is that they've also put as a priority point, one of the items is to take an existing program in a new direction. And I think that does really encourage innovation and growth. They also, of course, put a blip in there about supporting long-lasting access, capital facilities, and amenities. I also thought it was very interesting that they mentioned while matching funds are not required, it's a good measure of the organization's commitment to success to see other forms of income, and that's one of their criteria. And I am also happy to send this out as a Word document if anyone else has some questions on it as well. City of Yelm awards $25,600 a year, and that's for 2021. The total amount of funds in their lodging tax fund is $45,000, so that's 50%. And that is interesting as they're really just funding 2 things: LTAC grants to external agencies and then signage. Obviously, very different needs than our city. City of Sequim, they went up to $50,000 a year and exceed that's in excess of the year before. For 2020, they said grant funding usually will not exceed $1,000 per project or event, and that's very minimal. So interesting. They went up to $50,000 awarded for 2021, and the grants went up to $5,000 per. So we see that grant cap structure there as well. The city of Bainbridge Island, we've talked through a little bit already. $225,000 a year. The grant cap structure is there as well at 50% of the total available awardable funds, not the total fund balance. But as we looked in a little bit further, and then again, the minimum award is $2,000. As we looked a little bit further, we found that the majority of their funds, both in 2020, 2021, and for this year, go to DMO costs. So that's of interest as well. The nonprofits that were awarded stayed from $5,000 to $15,000. City of Oak Harbor, undetermined. Grant County, no for-profit businesses allowed. They have separate applications, which I found interesting, for events and then year-round promotion, and then also capital expenditures. We see
Laura, super quick, what does DMO stand for?
Destination Marketing Organization. So those are the services that the city provides really from this end. So we function as Visit Gig Harbor and work with our partners in other destinations like Visit Kitsap or Travel Tacoma.
Thank you.
Certainly. So for the city of Port Angeles, they specifically note in their application process that the city intends to maintain a reserve in the fund and will assess on an annual basis how much of the fund is appropriate in any given year. They approved a budget of their total for $455,000 in 2021. And that is very, very similar to our budget. So interesting. Let's see, I also really enjoyed their grant criteria as well. They have it on a weighted point-based system. So proven track record, non-demand periods. I know that's been a huge focus for us, and that is heavily weighted in this. That's something to consider. High value to the community, cost to low revenue and tax generation, and the age of event, which I found interesting as well. So if it's only gone on for 1 year, 5 points. If it's gone on for 1 to 2 years, 4 points. Very interesting. I'm not exactly sure.
That seems backwards.
Yeah, I think so too. But that's their criteria. For Pierce County, they host an application web workshop with Mike Gomi, who's frequently joined our LTAC meetings. We don't do a workshop per se, but we are doing a guided application process this year. So we're a little bit in line with what they're doing as well. Town of Friday Harbor also offers technical advice to applications and prior to the submission, which is what we're doing this year. I really enjoyed their criteria as well. Is it new, unusual, innovative, or a proven approach to tourism? Can it be completed? Is it an efficient and economical use of LTAC funds? And they have that bit on return on investment as well, which I found helpful. City of Renton, I also included their competitive criteria. They also do a weighted point system. Cost effectiveness is there as well. Snohomish County, and again, these county examples are a larger pool of hotels and vacation rentals to draw from, so funding is a little bit different there. Reimbursement only, as we do. Historically, the average project allocation is 10,000, but ranges from 5 to 50,000. So they also utilize a grant cap structure there as well. City of Pasco has no information. City of Edmonds has an interesting focus. They also have a arts-related grant process that is slightly separate from the tourism process. We have our creative endeavor grants that go up to 5,000. City of Edmonds goes up to 2,600 for events or programs that promote arts and culture related tourism. So that's just a little bit different, but I found that interesting as well. City of Tukwila only guidance, and this was from 2017, is that contracts greater than $40,000 will require a review and approval of the city council. And I think that has to do with a contracting piece of legislation that passed a little while ago. And then the City of Vancouver, via their website, last issued in 2019. So, we have that outlook of really wanting to make sure that we invest in our nonprofits and our events and the things that make Gig Harbor a great place to visit over these hard and lean years. And I think that's a little bit different too. But just a little bit of information gathering on where we're at and what our unique attributes are. I think we're very, very competitively focused in. I think our percentage amount of 25% of the total budget falls in line with a few other cities on looking at percentages, especially Bainbridge Island and one other. I also think we're in a healthy range in that grant cap structure. I think $20,000 for us increases diversity of applications and the amount of people that we have applying. So let me know any feedback, any thoughts on any of those.
Laura, my suggestion though, could we see those ahead of time? Things that there's so much information for me. It's like,
Absolutely. And I'll go ahead and send these to you after so you can review. And I'm very, very open to feedback and your thoughts too. But I wanted kind of an overview of what we're looking at.
Yeah. So, I mean, are we planning? You can't make changes this year anyway, right? I mean, we're kind of set.
No, there were just some questions in our last meeting on if we could get best practices from elsewhere as a follow-up to our MRSC training. And I just want to give everyone kind of an overview of where we're sitting. So
but to have that to look at and review, and kind of pick apart our, when we're
certainly. And I'm happy to send this to you post meeting.
Thank you. That'd be great. Thank you.
And feel free, of course, to give me feedback anytime and we can take a look at that. So any other thoughts on other structures? Or anything that stood out to you as something that we want to?
I like the point system. I think that's pretty cool. But I don't know how we would structure it, but And I think Mary's right. That seemed backwards, from the number of years of an event, and I
Then you have
do,
different.
I do like the idea that if we're going to fund an event, it needs to be supportable financially, that it has other forms of income. And that's been true in other applications that I've done other places. So that seems pretty important.
It seems as if that point system is encouraging new events.
And there may be different goals for different organizations or different cities, that may not have any, or that have just funded one or two events for who knows how many years. So each destination is different, but I did think the part about an efficient use of LTAC funds was also pretty compelling, and maybe something that we want to consider. And that's not to say that different uses are more efficient than another, but it does give me some interest in what we ask our applicants, based on what do you get out of this? How do you plan to spend? If you're planning on purchasing advertising, where are you planning to purchase it? That kind of thing. Because I think
The
we
only
have
problem is it's a little subjective. I think it's kind of hard to.
That is true. And I think that guidance though is for each of you. So if you particularly think it is an efficient use of funds, then Jenny, you can vote on, a certain point basis. Mary, you can award it another, Janae, another. So I think that might be something interesting to take a look at, to just develop our criteria and put those out as well. So something to think about. And I'm happy to send that to anyone who would like a copy of that. All right, moving on. Any last thoughts? Nope, okay. Just a brief update on the assistant position. We have closed the applications online. Very, very excited. I think we have a total of 12 candidates right now that have qualifications that match what we're looking for. So we'll begin kind of a phone screening and then an in-person interview process shortly. So I'm very, very happy about that. And very excited to see what we can do to be an efficient department with a full staffing.
So Laura, what's the target date to have that position hired?
I'm hoping through a phone screening and interview processes, that probably looks like maybe a month out, month and a half, maybe at most, and we'll see on start date. I'm assuming whoever we hire will have to also give their 2 weeks notice. So just factoring that in as well. So I also just want to give just a wonderful thank you to our HR department, who is understaffed, but also working at capacity. So I know this has been a highlight and a focus for us. They're working incredibly hard. So with less staffing than usual. So I also just wanted to touch base briefly and move on to LTAC applicants and events. As you know, this application window has offered review in advance, which is the first year we've offered that. So I've gotten a good amount of calls and a good amount of information from people. Some are outside the bounds of LTAC applicability, but have a great idea. So we've shifted a little bit of that from content developers to, a potential mural painter. We can shift that interest into other categories. We presented it briefly to the Arts Commission on maybe co-funding something that would be both a tourism draw and a piece of art in the shape of a mural. And I'm sure you've seen those throughout the country, things that people stop and take a picture at and make sure they make a particular pilgrimage out to. If you've not looked it up, Austin's "You Are My Butter Half" mural is one of my favorites. I may be able to bring that up on the screen. Let's see. I can do that. All right. So this is a blank brick street front in Austin, Texas, where people specifically go out to, and you can see the context. It's nothing special, but people will make a pilgrimage out there specifically to take their engagement photos, etc. Oops, nope. There we go. But something to consider, something that has a sense of place, something that draws people in, something that appeals to both locals and tourists, and also offers us the ability to have user-generated content that goes out there and promotes our destination too. So something to consider. We've also had some interesting.
Laura, sorry, I had my hand up, but you didn't see it.
Sorry.
First of all, I'm sorry for being late, but thanks for doing this meeting on a different schedule for all of us. I just wanted to mention that the chamber actually has funded for that kind of a wall. Unfortunately, the problem that we've had is we haven't been able to determine the proper location. I've talked to John Hogan and I've talked to some others, because when I was in Nashville, they had a big wall that people intentionally went to that business district in order to take a picture. And guess what? I was a tourist and did it too. And ever since then, we've been looking for a place to do that. And our thinking was that it should be in an area that wasn't necessarily always visited by, people coming to town. And so if you guys have some ideas, and if someone could give me some direction as far as what city ordinances or requirements might need to be met, we are prepared to do something like that.
Awesome. By the way, I know the person in Nashville who did that mural. Her name is Kristen Luna, and she started a nonprofit specifically to create murals that drove tourism. She's a travel writer, had a long time, worked with her for the past 10 years, but she branched off and did this. And she does it for various tourism boards across the country.
Mm-hmm. Well,
super cool.
If that's something that you can give me some assistance with, I'd be happy to help you pursue that, because I've felt for a long time that there needed to be something like that for people to want to venture out and be a part of.
Yeah, I agree. We also just explored the idea of maybe doing it on panels, so it could be a seasonal installation and easy to go up and down rather than having, a full other piece of art that goes up. So there's possibilities there. I would love to work with you on that. That sounds awesome. I will.
Okay, we have talked to a couple of artists as well. So anyway, just let me know if you've got any other information, and I'd appreciate it. Absolutely.
That's exciting. I'll give Kristen your kudos as well. She'll be excited to hear that. So yeah, that's a great opportunity. We also had an application from the Crescent Valley Lavender Farm. I have one that just came across my desk from the Gig Harbor Yacht Junior Sail Club. I'm not sure how many of you may be familiar with monkey shines in Tacoma. Throughout the spring months, you can go out and search for these really beautiful glass orbs, and it becomes a collectible. They ask that you only take one when you find one, but it becomes something that's a little bit more of a seek and find kind of thing. I think it'd be really interesting to do over here. We've inquired to see if they're interested, and we'll see if we get an application. We got an application from Gig Harbor Now. Thank you, Jenny. We went through some of the criteria there, and we don't know if that applies for specific LTAC funds just because of the measurement component. But we love Gig Harbor Now, and we're glad you exist. We're glad you're here. So yeah. We also, interestingly enough, in sports, I'm not sure if any of you saw the coverage in the News Tribune, but there was a Gig Harbor lacrosse movement that's starting to grow. We hosted the tournament for the Gig Harbor Premier Soccer Tournament, and that brought in a huge amount of families from Western Washington. Those are both organizations that I think show a good amount of promise in drawing in tourism, and we'll continue to take a look and see if they're interested. I know I reached out to Gig Harbor Lacrosse, and someone's offered to put me in touch with the Gig Harbor Soccer Tournament to see how we could amplify that and perhaps make that more of an event for families with something else that goes on in town over those dates. So We have had interest from the Gig Harbor Tap Room for an event called Barbecue and Brews. They'll be submitting, and we'll see how that works. We had an application from the Gig Harbor Film Festival come in yesterday, so that's exciting, and we'll continue to accept those through the 27th. Anyone is welcome.
The farmer's market will be putting one in.
I know. I'll check in with you. So yep, that's what we've got on the docket right now. I'm excited that we're starting to get more and more applications that are a little bit more varied too. And I think that's a good amount of information. I will start to schedule out presentations as we move through what is applicable and what is not. And as I work with people, so we'll get a calendar together and I will have that for you after the 27th. So good process though. It's a good progress on what we're doing in our outreach for this year. I was very pleasantly surprised with the amount of information that Eric Lowell from MRSC gave us on our last committee meeting. I wanted to follow up with that. I know there was a few follow-up questions that I have been in touch with Eric on. So I'm happy to field any and continue that dialogue with anything that we wanted to continue discussion on. No, okay. I think I had a few questions that applied for the for-profit side of things, and also just taking a look at I think I also asked on Gig Harbor Now, Jenny, whether or not that would be applicable. So those have been my follow-up points. If you have any other questions about applicability, feel free to shoot them my way. I'm happy to submit them to MRSC, and we'll continue to use Eric as a reference and a resource. I'm not sure if anyone has had a chance yet, but we are in beta for our new tourism site at visitgigharborwa.com. Our former Gig Harbor Guide site forwards to the new tourism site. We've started to invest in a Google Ads campaign. We launched our digital marketing campaign today, so that's pretty exciting. I'm also happy to go through just a few of our ads, and I'm going to go ahead and screen share as well.
So Laura,
Yes.
I tried to get onto it and it wouldn't let me into it. Maybe I'm going to the wrong place.
Visitgigharborwa.com.
Visit gigharborwa.com. So I was trying to go into look up a calendar, some kind of a calendar, and I couldn't see anything.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Can you see the website on screen share right now?
No, I'm seeing one of your emails.
Thank you. Share screen.
I can
This
pull
is
it up.
the site, and it should be able. I did have it behind a password wall for just a little bit as we the redirect happened just a little bit too quickly. So we are launched. We're in beta. We're taking feedback and adjusting small things, and then we'll put out a press release this following week. I'm working on getting our website, our webcam from Jurassic Park to feed in again. And so we'll have that launched. There's just a lot more SEO functionality here in writing the meta tags and writing the descriptions for SEO search. And we're excited to have this. Please explore, please send me your feedback and let me know if you see anything. Jenny, I appreciate that while we're still in beta.
So I did see this, but what I was looking for was a calendar of events.
So if you go up to what to do, you have our event calendar.
Okay, maybe I was
And
looking.
that goes into each month. So if you
Excellent.
go,
Okay, cool. Thank you.
you can see everything there. And each of these has its own page. So that increases SEO a little bit further. It's not just a list on one page. They're essentially their own little websites. So you can see everything that's happening next month.
So can people submit to you to be on the calendar, or how do you get Things for the calendar.
Yes, absolutely. Right now, I've just gone through years past and pulled out everything that we had and contacted everybody. I'm
Okay.
getting notifications of cancellations. I'm still keeping the events on there, but just noting that they're canceled or they've been switched to virtual.
Okay.
So, yep, no, communications@gigharborwa.gov. Send them my way.
Okay. Okay. So, great. Can we just slip to the visitor's guide really quick, in case I have to get called away again? Because to clarify, because my pet peeve is going by the kiosks and seeing them empty, okay? And the digital sign not working. So for me, my marketing dollars are not being used very well. So I clarified with Julie the other day. They printed 30,000 of the visitors guides, okay? You got so many, we can get as many as we want. She said, we can distribute that to the kiosks if Laura just tells me what kiosks she wants them to be, or what spots. Because
no, that was
bring
supposed to
down-
be part of our agreement all along. So she told me that they were handling distribution entirely. And that was their thing.
so maybe it's a communication thing, but can we get that taken care of like now?
I will talk to her. To be
Okay.
very, very honest, I'm not going in the direction of using that as a distribution system in the future.
That's
Just
fine,
because
but now we're sitting on three, we have wasted 2 months of no visitors guides being out. I get them, the
Right.
hotel get them because I asked for them. I don't know about Mary or how many, but totally those kiosks are just all empty. So
So what I've been told and what I've been told up to this point, and I'm happy to contact Julie and speak with her again, is that
Okay.
they have a limited number to distribute and that they are handling distribution and they will decide who gets what and how many per month.
that's not at
So
all. That's not at all.
That's what
told
she's
me.
told me directly. I'm happy to call her and I'm happy to loop you in. But also these are the problems without having a contracted agreement between the city and a producer.
Okay,
So
but we didn't, so can we just move forward? I get it. It was not the way you wanted it to be, or people wanted it to be, but it's there. So can we, that's what she told me, if she just.
yep, I'm happy to call her. I'm happy to call her
Gotcha.
and just see that.
And
Yep.
get that.
So the kiosks have always been part of what we have asked consistently in our contracted agreement to be filled through the distributor. But again, that's their product. And
I don't know, but I know too, the mayor a couple meetings ago said, let's have Diane do it. I don't know what happened there. I just go, can we just do it? And the same with
Yeah.
the sign. It's kind of like, I don't know what's holding it up. Could we just get it fixed? Because again, for the last
Yep.
2 months, it's dark and those
yeah,
things.
and I sent you an email on that specifically. It's a company out of Minnesota. IT has to go in, remove a part, ship it out to them. They have to replace it and go back with that. So that's,
What about, you said something about a service agreement though. Don't we have? to-
yep, I've already signed it.
Okay, so now that's the holdup, waiting for a part, right?
Yep. And to
Okay,
be honest, I don't know why it didn't happen 2 months ago. So
okay. That's all. Those are
Yep.
my,
So those are, I know you also had a question on brochures as well, and I have a calendar of production on those and updating content to make sure they're accurate and distributed.
okay, awesome. Thank you.
Certainly. And I'm gonna roll back really quickly because I think we just handled signage around town, or distribution around town. We can touch base quickly on,
Sorry, Laura, signage around town though was something that we've had in the budget for a couple of years. What I was talking about signage, correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, Jenny, you've been on here. We were talking about the signage, the wood signs that we've had maybe for 20 years now. Some of them have been updated, like at Uptown area. I see, those are all, but the one here at the top of the hill, pretty old. All of those are very, very old and not really accurate, I don't think anymore. So those were the ones that I was looking at and talking about, that we had talked about, 2.5 years ago. Well, when Karen was there, probably for sure. So that was, and I thought that was in the budget. So
it wasn't spent for 2019. It wasn't spent in 2020 or this past year. We will take a look at doing that. I think we
Okay.
had $14,000 allocated for that.
mhm.
So
Okay. Yeah. And I'm not sure who the, vendor who does all of that, but yeah, they need to be, they're pretty pretty dated around here, around, the main part of town. So thank
There
you
were 3 specifically that we were looking at for that
Were there?
$14,000.
for the one at the top of the hill and what?
Yep. The other 2, I don't recall off the top of my head, but I will send those to you. so,
Okay, okay, all right.
happy to
Thank-
update you guys. We'd intended to replace. I think we had also made a decision that we were kind of on a freeze on spending during pandemic, during the restrictions. So we'll take a look at that again. To note as well, our partnership with Visit Kitsap has expanded. We've renegotiated that contract, and we're getting a lot more for that. So we also have media monitoring through critical mention, media database access, which is going to increase our ability to secure earned media like that 1889 piece. So we'll begin to go out a little bit harder on that and utilize those media lists and also be able to measure that very accurately as well. So that's pretty exciting. They also have a much higher focus on events and FAMs to the Kitsap region, and by extension, us, when we would like to add on Gig Harbor we're not going to be hosting an individual FAM trip. The ROI on bringing 10 to 12 people in and flying them across the country doesn't work for me. But we're happy to tag on when people are visiting the region. We also have, we have a new executive director at Visit Kitsap, Beth Javens, who came to us from Sammamish. She's got a really great focus on industry events, including TBEX, which is the Travel Bloggers Association, and IFWTA, which is the International Food and Travel Writers Association. So we are utilizing that relationship much more than we have in the past. In the past, it was more like a in-kind sponsorship. We would give $5,000, be part of the Water Trails app, and also have advertising featured on their website. We are making that a much more collaborative process. And I think that's going to net us some really great results.
Laura, what is this? What is TBEX FAM? I'm sorry,
TBEX
I'm so overrun with acronyms. I can't figure all this out.
I am surprised I remember all of them sometimes. It's the Travel Bloggers Exchange. So that was set to be hosted in the Tri-Cities this season. It was canceled due to Corona, concerns. But Visit Kitsap had offered to host a FAM, as had several other Washington destinations.
What's a FAM? What's a FAM?
Familiarization trip. So it's like travel agents, travel writers, so they come in and get familiar with your destination.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I forget sometimes. The tourism industry really loves their acronyms. So thank you for asking too.
Was it just me that didn't know that, or was that brought up some previously?
It's not a widely known. No one's saying TBEX regularly.
I had absolutely no idea either.
It's a very small portion of my brain that's allocated to those.
And I'm going to apologize right now. I need to leave in about 5 minutes to participate in the interviews for our new judge. So
wonderful. There's only other one big item that we're discussing, and Mary is very well versed in this already. But we have an interesting opportunity for capital expenditure cost and tourism promotion. We are facing a winter season where people cannot gather. It is a unique problem to think about how we're going to bring people into Gig Harbor with a socially distanced component. Again, we don't know the future, but it's best to plan for what we can do either way. We've taken a look at pricing out a ice rink. We would fully own it. We would be able to recoup our costs probably in a year or two. We have found a location for it that looks like it may work. And that would be placed over the sand volleyball courts at Crescent Creek Park. This would be something that would plug into the power and the water supply at the lift station at Crescent Creek Park. There'd be ticketed entry so that we control the flow of traffic throughout town. We control the amount of people in one place at one time. We would have to put together a ticketing system, probably through Eventbrite. We have the opportunity to serve those people a event guide throughout Gig Harbor and offer the opportunity to either book a hotel room if they're coming from far, or put together a small package with some of our businesses. So like pre and post dinner or something like that. But it looks feasible. And I say it looks feasible because I am still speaking with Public Works on all of the nuts and bolts and how that might work, what our water bill might look like, what any kind of event sponsorship might look like. But essentially, I think it's a really great opportunity to bring people into Gig Harbor, both from the general Kitsap Peninsula and then further afar as well. We have the opportunity to make it just a really unique, very Gig Harbor experience. It's an interesting capital expenditure that we could use for many years to come and essentially turn a profit from it at some point. So.
Have you talked to any other communities that have done this?
Yes, College Rail at Tacoma Events and Venues was in charge of the Tollefson Plaza location before it turned over to Ruston. And I just been her ear the other day on what that looks like. I'm also looking at the Bellevue rink as well as the Port Angeles rink. Both are air but covered. So yeah, I'm just gathering my due diligence before we make a final decision.
Laura, just what's approximate cost? And is it
$110,000.
or what's that?
$110,000.
$10,000 just for the
110 for the full rink setup, everything from ice, chiller system, handrails, skates, all of the benches for the skate prep area, everything there.
And I wonder how many you can have in there at a time. Just, I'm thinking parking, Crescent Valley, it's a little limited at the park. I'm big picture.
Right. And that's why we'd probably have those 90-minute windows of exactly how many people we could fit. And we're looking at that right now. So they custom design a rink essentially, like they do for most. And right now, I think we're looking at 32 by 45 feet. So it's a smaller rink, but it's also something that I think Ruston's the only destination in the greater South Sound. So different experience entirely.
So Laura, who would staff this?
I think we'd have to probably look at seasonal for ticketing for skate rental, something like that.
And is that in the budget? Is that in addition to the 110?
That's an addition, yeah. But that could probably be underwritten by that ticketing cost as well. So whatever we decide to determine is a ticketing price, we can take a look at that. So if we have two people at like $13 to $15 an hour or something like that, that's easily coverable. So interesting idea. I think it meets a lot of our criteria for drawing people in during the winter season. The mayor has expressed interest in running it through January. We're also taking a look at what water costs might look like and everything else that might go along with that. So
I think the other important piece is what sort of revenue do we think we can get from it? What would we charge? How many people would come through?
I think we'd be able to. I mean, Downtown Waterfront Alliance had some, or our promotions committee had some interesting insight too on, Mary, refresh my mind there. I'm
not sure where you're going. I'm not sure where you're going with it.
Tony, I'm sorry, what were you mentioning? How much revenue?
Yeah, I mean, cost is easy. We can get that from the vendor who builds it, but how many people do we think we would, who would come through and skate? What fee would we charge them? What would our ongoing expenses be in addition to the water, the staff and all that? And then, at the end of the day, how much money are we going to bring in for the season?
Right, and that's something we'll have to figure out with rates. Sorry, the Downtown Waterfront Alliance also made not you, but the promotions committee also made a great point about that being a great opportunity for company Christmas parties.
And I need to run.
Go ahead.
Get to those interviews, but thank you all, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
And team building. I know what you're referencing. Hey, have you looked into the liability insurance? If you would have to get a special rider on the city's insurance for this or anything?
Only if people have cocktails before. That is on my list as well. Then again, there's a lot of nuts and bolts that this is a preliminary idea and we're trying to figure out if it's feasible. So those are all excellent points. So
So
staffing.
Laura, I do know there are a couple of main streets that have tried this. I believe that for whatever reason, I believe the directors that did this project, they're now gone. But I could contact the main streets to find out, has anybody done an ice rink and what has been your success or failures or words of wisdom?
I've
I know
noticed-
there were two, and one of them I think was Kennewick, and I think they lost a lot of money.
What I've noticed from the successful year after year presentations are a good amount of corporate sponsorships. And that is something I've made a short list about too, because it is a great opportunity for businesses to get their logo in front of people and really do some great community outreach. I think those costs, and I want to make sure that I'm not overcommitting us. So due diligence, that's why I'm not going to say it's definitely happening or we're signing a contract. We're just looking at all the nuts and bolts to see what are the creative ways we can bring in tourism to downtown and Gig Harbor in total. So
Laura, is that space fenced currently?
it's got a mesh fence that can be taken down and put back up. With the ice rink design, they would also include a fence.
Yeah, because that would be, that would be critical in terms of liability and people being able to potentially get in there at night and, lots of other issues. The safety factor of it is a little bit scary. And then, and staffing, you're talking about who's going to maintain it as well. Are you going to have city staff that's going to maintenance people who are going to do that, or, how that's going to work. So anyway, just things I was thinking about.
And those are questions. So I posted to Public Works to kind of come up with all of the nuts and bolts of everything. We're going to get on a call, figure out what their concerns are, figure out what we can address and what we may not be able to. So just looking at that. So just an idea, preliminary idea. There's a lot of other ideas too. But yeah, trying to get creative in what we come up with to attract business in a strange year.
I was just about to say, I think you're getting creative and thinking outside of the box, and you're doing a fantastic job.
Yep.
The website looks great.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. We needed an upgrade, and this is much easier to maintain in-house. In addition to that heightened SEO that we get from the structure of this, it's also easier to run Google Ads. We also save cost on site crafting and site hosting. So we've got a lot more control, and we can quickly pivot on content rather than paying a third-party developer to do what we need. So, and all of that savings goes toward our ice rink. I'm joking. I think we only have one or two other things. As part of our 2022 budget, I am looking at content development for photography, video, drone. You can see that video that's embedded on the landing page of our website. That was through an in-town company, In Gear Media, that's run by a 23-year-old. Very impressive.
A former farmer's market vendor.
Yeah, Nate Graves. So we're very proud of that. We're also looking at another company here in Gig Harbor called Wild Human that's creating some really great content and taking a look at what we can put together for the future. So I think the only last remaining item that we have really is the brochure production for 2022. I'm sure you've all seen our former brochures. The NetShed brochure still mentions that Ansich is under construction. Our golf brochure was dated from 2015 with the Chambers Bay big event. I know we've got a big event coming in 2022 for Chambers Bay. It's the Women's International. So those are all important upgrades to make. I think we need to have a regular par amount throughout town. I know at the very least, I've got decent par amounts for what the chamber needs and what Sue and the Wesley Inn needs for trolley brochures for next year. I really want to get us on a routine refreshment of design, information, and printing. So I'm just establishing a lot of the artwork that we previously had is not available in a source file. So that's really hard to edit. You usually have to create it from scratch, which is doable, but a little bit of a time increase. I do hope that the assistant that we hire has a graphic design background and can provide some help on editing some of these existing pieces. But as you know, content's only good if you have it out there and it's updated and it's directing people in the right direction, in the right way. So we're establishing our foundations and we're getting.
So when you say brochure, are you talking about rack cards or what do we
rack
talk?
cards? Yes, you're right.
Okay, thank you. I was like, do we have brochures? Okay, so we're talking rack cards. Okay.
We also need to take a look at redoing the City of Gig Harbor walking map. And I'm not sure where that came from. I don't know if that was in partnership with the chamber, but we're running fairly low and we need to figure out how to redo that. And there's a possibility of hiring an artist and making it more of a watercolor edition with really distinct points and doing that as a trifold. So that it's maybe easier for people to carry around town rather than those big tear-offs. I'd love to hear feedback on that and what your thoughts might be.
I would just say from the chamber, they, the people who are coming in, that's one of the very popular items that they take because they're trying to find their way around downtown, and that does an excellent job of explaining some of the different locations. But those big tear-off sheets are probably one of the top items for downtown mapping and for that particular event. Are they ever going to do that again this year? Are they doing anything as far as those tours are concerned, downtown tours?
The walking tours through the Alliance?
Mm-hmm.
No, they're all virtual. They're all available online.
Okay.
The
I
three
just didn't know
partners
if
just
they were doing separation or something and trying to do it. I haven't been there for a while, so I didn't know.
Yes, you're where it's sunny, right?
Yes.
The three partners of the Alliance and the museum and Harbor Wild Watch discussed it, and they felt that this would be a virtual year again. So they are all available online though.
Wonderful. And
of course, the Alliance still puts out this map. Oops, I don't know if you guys can see that. This one, it's all blurry.
it's your background.
Yeah.
Mary or Warren, do you know where that tear-off map originated? Because that's not a source file that I have. That would need to be redesigned if I go to print again.
I thought it was you. I mean,
I thought it was this. I thought it was when Lorene was there. Isn't that? Yeah.
I think so.
Well,
I think it came from the city, but it's been around for a long, long time. And
yeah.
I can't remember the last time it was updated. Do you, Mary?
Sue's back in here because I'm listening, but doing other stuff. It wasn't that long ago when Karen was here. I think she updated it. So after Lorraine and when Karen spanned, they did update it then. But yeah, it's been around since I think Lorraine did it, original. It came during then. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know we don't have any digital files. We've always asked the city whenever we needed additional supplies.
I have been on the hunt for any digital file that we have in our cache, and I haven't seen anything. I think it's probably time. I think it should probably be updated at a minimum every 5 years. So I'm going to take a look at that.
At least because things, especially after this last year, what's still, except for the parks and the properties, but so many of the other things aren't even, yeah.
So the art cost is fairly minimal to produce something. I'm going to see if I can get that put together and just get a quote on that as well. So all of these things are in the works. They just take a good amount of research to figure out if we have anything that's easily editable, and that's a search. Creating it from scratch is a little bit more difficult, but also possible. So that's the schedule that I'm talking about, just getting on a regular rotation of this is when we update, this is when new information comes out, and this is when we print again and again, and establishing those par levels throughout town so that we know what we're ordering and that we have a good plan to order in advance rather than be reactionary. So I think that brings it to an end from my point. I would love to know any shoulder season ideas that you have, any input you have on what we should be pitching, what we should be focusing on, what would help you. Let me know what we can get out there on the earned media side.
I'd love to tell you we're having a whole lot of events, but I cannot do that.
Any other feedback? Tell me what you're seeing around town. Tell me if you're seeing interesting stuff. Let me know. Those go into my pitches. I am continually pitching to journalists to come out, to experience Gig Harbor, to experience the seasonal side of things. But yeah.
Just a heads up, the race is still happening Sunday, Race for a Soldier, prayer breakfast tomorrow at Chapel Hill in the morning. So they're making that work, and happy to have that, because that is always a source of business for us. So yeah, that's putting a plug in for that. Thank
Hey,
you.
Laura, any promotion you can do of downtown and encouraging people to go downtown in spite of the construction? I did hear from businesses this morning, they're starting to feel the pinch of having traffic backed up from, Edinburgh to the Tides. So just reminding the community that the businesses are open and to remember to shop local.
Go ahead. I'll make that a focus in the next few weeks for
That'd be
social
great.
as well. And that's all I have from my end. We are working on one item. We are rebranding our Instagram and Facebook pages. We are combining the audience of Gig Harbor, Washington with Gig Harbor Guide to make one cohesive experience on Facebook. We have the city side for, public works, bits here and there for local residents. And then we have our big tourism focus for both locals and residents. So we will, locals and tourists. So we should have, I believe our total audience will be around 25,000 once those are combined. And that's a huge upgrade from Gig Harbor Guide's initial 3,500 when I joined. So we'll be reaching that audience a little bit better. All right, I think that we're at an end. I want to thank you for all of your time. It's great to keep this as under an hour. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Got Mary and then Janae seconding. Thank you all so much. And as usual, get in touch with me throughout the month. Any questions, anything, give me a call, give me an email, and I'm happy to answer any questions or send you information.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.